Okay, and we are on. All right, Will Ruth, thank you very much for joining us today. Greg Spooner here, rowphysio.com and Row Physio Physical Therapy. Really excited today to have Will Ruth, strength trainer, strongman himself, and a rowing coach and author of Rowing Stronger, now in its second edition. Will, thanks so much for coming on.
Happy to be here, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I wonder if you could tell the audience a bit about your background and connection to the rowing world.
Yeah, I guess my connection actually starts about 65 years ago when my grandfather first picked up an oar. He was the first in my family to row, and then everybody else kind of started after him. So my dad rowed, my uncles rowed, my older cousins rowed. So it was basically just a matter of time until I also joined the family trade and rowed. And none of us were particularly good, but we all got out there and had a good time. So I rowed as a junior for the Olympia area rowing program in Olympia, Washington, when I was in high school. I thought that I wanted to row when I went to college, but at a towering 5'8", that was not really in the cards for me. And I remember I was told by one of the college coaches, you'd really need to be down around 635 or so in order for me to consider you as a lightweight on my team. And I said, yeah, I don't know if I'm into that level. That would have been a big reach for me in high school. And then sort of knowing that I would have to do that again for 4 more years. So I came to college, went to Western Washington University and joined the club lacrosse team, did that for a couple of years, and then started competing in strength sports. We had a local group. And then because I was in the weight room so much between lacrosse and I knew some of the other rowers on the Western team from high school and other programs, and I started helping them out. I got an internship with the track and field team, and that put me in the weight room for an entire calendar year, getting to work with or an academic year, getting to work with their jumpers and throwers. And then the rowing coach said, well, hey, why don't you come out and start with the rest of the team too? So I started coming out to practices and just sort of seeing what problems they were encountering and what I might be able to help with from a strength training perspective. And then sort of getting them off of the very typical sort of rower thing of, really high rep machine circuits because, 2,000 meters is 7 minutes. So we should probably train for that level of output. So sort of reworking their program, getting more injury prevention work in, getting more specific rowing performance work in.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had a desk job and a lot of time on my hands after I graduated. So I started writing, started posting articles and sort of instructional series of methods on my website, and not really thinking that it was going to go anywhere. And then lo and behold, the views started ticking up and I started getting questions on social media and stuff.
And that's actually how I first found you was through rowingstronger.com,
Mm-hmm.
and had a chance to read about you had just brilliant answers to lots of people's questions, which they were either asking directly and you'd respond to on social media, or you'd write blogs for those who maybe didn't know what questions to ask. And as a physical therapist, I saw those as pure gold, and they really complemented well what I do with Row Physio and the athletes that I work with. So I was stoked to connect with you in that way. Also, I was stoked to connect even more so when I found out you were, Washington State born and bred. So yeah. I can never say no to the Washington connection there. So being from the Seattle area myself, so you're just down the way. So Rowing Stronger, the book, is now in its second edition. What was the inspiration behind writing the book itself? I mean, was it you already had all these blog posts and you just wanted to go further, or did you want to have something more specific, create a handbook? I mean, what?
Yeah, basically, I mean, the first edition came about because I started getting emails and messages, especially from other coaches in the area who said, hey, we've talked to your coach at Western Washington at regattas and stuff, and he said, oh, well, here's the guy you really should be talking to about strength training. So I owe a lot to Jack Marilich, who was the coach at the time, for not only giving me the opportunity to start coaching with the team and sort of giving me, he said, I remember what he said, this is your baby. I want to see it every once in a while. I want to hold it. I want to, mess up its hair, but then I want to give it back to you, and it's going to be your thing. So he really let me go with it, and then gave me a lot of support once the results started coming in. So I said, well, all right, if other coaches are into this, and this obviously is something that they have access to, then what could I create that they might be able to use? And I was originally just kind of intending to put it up on a website, kind of as a Word doc PDF sort of thing. And then I started, Rebecca from Row Perfect emailed me and said, hey, are you publishing this anywhere? And we'd like to make it available on our website. And so to have an opportunity to then work with Row Perfect UK as a global rowing education company sort of took it to the next level. So I was now going out of sort of my little network of Western Washington club programs, and into a multinational sort of audience. So that opened up the opportunity to have a lot more fun and talk to a lot more people and get the good word of strength training out to a lot more people worldwide.
Yeah, and rightly so that it went worldwide, really, because just like I said, was referring to with your blog. I mean, you can't pull this stuff out of nowhere. You can't do a simple Google search for the most part and find the type of answers that I think people need or want. And so it was great to see that book came out. And one of the things that I know that you had said and that we witnessed was that from the first edition, when that first came out a few years ago, to now the second edition, you went from a very small book, to a little thicker book with a lot more information. What's aside from just the size and the volume, what else is different between first and second edition?
Yeah, so the first edition I wrote in 2015. We published in October of that year. Since then, I've gotten to coach a lot more. I've gotten to work with a lot more rowing coaches as well as athletes, and masters rowing, as well as doing junior rowing workshops and consultations. And I've also gotten a master's degree in sport coaching in that time too. And wrote, I was doing one article a week for most of 2015 and 2016. So I wrote a lot in that time too. And it was one, I got like a negative Amazon review or something like that said, this really isn't worth it compared to what's already available on his website. And that made me think, like, well, one, I need to go back and rework things, because after sort of putting out that much volume, I had learned a lot and improved my own writing, and then realized that I could do a lot better job with the feedback I'd received, the questions I'd gotten. So yeah, the second edition is about triple the length of the first edition, but not with fluff and just sort of stuff to pad the length. It's all adding detail, adding clarity based on the questions, based on the feedback, and based on the learning that I've done both as a coach and as a student, as well as with reading research and really engaging with the available material.
What would you say in these updates that you made was one of the big changes, or the big I guess ways that you enhanced the previous version?
I mean, a big change in my coaching in that time has been that I started out from much more of like a powerlifter strength sports kind of angle, with a lot more barbells and a lot higher volume training, I guess. And as I worked more with rowers and got to try out more things, I sort of realized the ways in which the barbell was not everything, that we could do a lot with kettlebells or dumbbells or body weight exercises. And so seeing rowers actually respond to those different ways of moving and different ways of loading was really helpful for sort of, okay, we have all of this available to us. We don't need to limit ourselves to just one tool. And then I've also been able to drop the volume down a lot more than I thought, from what I thought I needed at first to what we actually need to make results. And that's been helpful with learning more about what rowers actually need, and what they're already getting through rowing, that we don't need to be doing a ton of gym volume, because they're getting a lot of volume through rowing training anyway. So sort of learning how to ride that balance between enough work or enough of a stimulus to make strength and muscle gains, but not so much that we're dampening them for rowing, or restricting their long-term ability.
And that really highlights something that I've had on my mind too as of late, from the perspective of training and volume. So right now I'm training for a 70-mile race that takes place annually up in Washington State, called the 70-48. You have 48 hours to go 70 miles, point A to point B. There's a small cadre of us who do that all in one go, basically between 9 and 11 hours. And in researching physiologically how we can prepare for that, volume is key, that aerobic base is key, but just how much do you really need to prepare to see your gains? And what we found over time here initially is that most of our longer rows actually don't go beyond about 25 to 30 miles. And but when you structure the program appropriately, that gives you all the base and all the endurance you need to be able to complete complete that journey and feel great. And so I could see how that could mirror a little bit about what you're talking about here.
Yeah, because there's the rowing side and there's the strength training side too. And so I think a lot of coaches look at the rowing side and think whether it's 70 miles or 2 kilometers or whatever, that we should be doing close to that same stimulus in the gym because strength is specific, and so those transfer over. But it's like, all right, the first time you see someone doing a set of 200 on leg presses, it's like that's not a 2K. Like there are better ways to train besides just trying to do the exact same thing in rowing and strength training. And there's a lot of research on that we could get into too. Probably a longer conversation on the interference effect and stuff. But the basic idea that yes, strength is specific, but that doesn't mean our strength training needs to be exactly the same as the rowing training, just sort of piling the same stimulus on top of the same stimulus.
So then that begs the question then, how does weightlifting in general, I guess, make someone a better rowing athlete? And why is it important that a rower should weight train?
And actually, one of the things that it seems like a semantic thing, but one of the wording changes that I made from version 1 to version 2 was actually taking weight training out entirely and changing it to strength training. So I just did basically a find and replace. And everywhere that I said weight training at first, I changed to strength training. Because again, of that idea that if you're a junior athlete, if you're a master's athlete and body weight is challenging for you, or just moving differently, doing a lateral lunge or something is more challenging for you than a squat or a leg press or something, then the value of that movement, I didn't want it to be minimized by people to just think about weight and weight training and sort of as that to be the end of it. And so that kind of goes into the answer too, beyond just the semantics of it, is that increasing your strength increases your endurance because it makes the relative load of the stroke a lower percentage of your max output. So to break that down with numbers, if one stroke at 2K pace requires about 150 pounds of force, and your max that you can move through that range of motion is 175, then you're working really hard per stroke. But if we can improve your max to 225, 235, maybe even higher, then that 150 pounds of force is a lot lower. And you'll be able to sustain it for a longer output because instead of it being 85 or 90% of your max output, it's now 50% of your max output.
And this makes a heck of a lot of sense. And I imagine you probably get into that, if I remember right, you do get into that very same discussion in Rowing Stronger, right?
This is basically the introduction to my book. Yeah, is why does strength matter in rowing, and why should you be training like this, like you're training for strength and power instead of just doing muscular endurance.
Yes, and that leads to my last question, which in a way you've kind of answered it, but maybe you can elaborate just a little bit more. So, since many of our followers are in Row Physio are rowing athletes, they're training to win a gold medal. How, if they get a hold of your book, Rowing Stronger, how can it help them best prepare to win gold?
So there's 2 parts to that. One, there's the performance angle. And there's improving your maximum force potential so that your peak power, your starts, your sprints, especially if you're a master's athlete, you're racing 1K, all of that is much more important over 1,000 meters than it is over 2,000 meters than it is over 70 miles, right? So we want to have the improved force potential from strength training, but we also need the reduction of injury risk. And we can do a lot of that through strength training too, because if you're sweep rowing or even if you're sculling, you're developing pretty much one area of your body. You're going to get strong quads, you're going to get strong lats, you're going to get strong biceps, probably strong upper traps too. But there's a lot of holes within that whole system that we need to fill in, and that it's very hard to fill in through rowing training alone. So there's the 2 sides of strength training. I know this is something that you write about, talk about on your website too, is the improving the performance and also the reducing risk of injury. And if we can reduce risk of injury, we can keep athletes in boats longer. They can have more productive practices. They can be pain-free. They'll be able to train harder. They'll be able to train better. And that alone might actually be more valuable than improving their force potential. But if we can get them both going in the same direction, then that's where you can get the gold.
Yeah, I love it. Will Ruth, Rowing Stronger, volume 2, version 2.
Yeah.
Second edition.
The whole new thing.
And rowingstronger.com. Thank you so much for coming out today. And thank you all, the audience. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel at Row Physio on YouTube, and then also head on over to Row Physio at Facebook and Instagram, all those other places. And if you have any questions, you can certainly drop us a line here in the comments or at any of those other areas, or at rowphysio.com. Will, how can they get a hold of you?
I am on, really through my website's the best way. It's rowingstronger.com, and it's the Rowing Stronger book, so I try to make that easy to remember. I'm on Facebook as Strength Coach Will, and I'm on Twitter as Will Ruth 335, but all that's linked through the website, so really the website's where it happens.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again. Looking forward to connecting again sometime soon, man. Great to chat again as always.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.